Hi,
Hey everybody,
welcome.
Banshee here and Oberon. Welcome to Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with who I just said. It's Sunday. Happy day. Moon in Aries today. I can't complain. How about you?
Can't complain. It's been a long week. And it starts over tomorrow. What can I say?
And we had a good dousing of rain just a little while ago. Thought it might be storming here for the live stream today.
So,
Stay tuned. That
yeah,
may
if you hear
happen.
any rumblings, it's not my stomach. It's actually the thunder out there.
That may kick up a little, extra psychic energy, the lightning, all that
And speaking of
energy.
which, we'll give ourselves our brief introduction, which is that we are Oberon and Banshee, and we're longtime tarot card readers in the metropolitan Detroit area. Very long time, combined experience over 80 years. So we've been doing it a long time. This is a new venture for us, and so we're glad you're here with us, and we hope to be entertaining and also offer some readings and maybe some lively debate and discussion.
And that's right. We usually have read person to person, but we have done some radio uh, spots in the past, but mostly person to person. So doing this via live stream is brand new, and we're now in our start of our third week, isn't it?
Pretty
My
much, yeah. We
goodness.
started 3 weeks ago.
So, we're coming along and we're growing with each show we do. And so we hope you stick with us as we continue to morph and change and transform into a butterfly or something. I don't know.
That's right, Banshee.
So,
Butterflies are free to fly.
oh, yeah, fly away. So, I was going to say something else about the live stream and I'm forgetting now.
Well, maybe we should just go ahead then and start with our
I
first
would give
segment.
people just a few more minutes in case they're joining us. If you're here now and you want to just say a little hello on the chat so we know you're here, that would be wonderful. Um, I'm trying to think what else here I have to say. Today, I might be throwing some extra cards in our reading. I brought my Lenormand deck out, so you never know. That might happen. Also, do we want to go over our agenda for today? If you haven't checked out our Facebook page and Twitter, just to let you know, we'll be doing individual readings. If you have a question you want to write to us on the chat that we can answer for you live, we'll throw a few cards for you. We usually do reserve about 10 minutes at the end of each hour for that, possibly longer. It just depends, possibly a little less. It just depends on the flow of some of our other entertainment that we have for today.
Right.
And you have a meditation for us today, don't you? That'll be
Yes, I'll have
coming up.
that. And I guess we'll have possibly a review or no?
Not a review.
Okay.
I have brought out some old, old,
Ah,
old school divination devices to share with everybody today. Fun games. Actually, these are a little bit more like parlor games, fun games that my aunt had as part of her collection. Actually, a couple of my aunts. I'm not sure who's responsible for these. I think it might have been Aunt Mary, but I'm not for certain. Could have been Aunt Catherine's too, one of them at least. So, I think we've been talking, yakking it up long enough. Why don't we go into our first segment, which is about our tarot for tomorrow readings from the last few days. Just a little
yes.
bit of a recap. We can discuss if these cards had any meaning for you without, of course, naming names or, or, to protect the innocent. We will name no names here if it involves people in our
So
lives.
these cards specifically are the cards that we pulled for Friday, Saturday, and today. And we
Yes.
pulled those on the previous evening. So this first card of Friday was actually pulled on Thursday night. And that was the death card reversed. And just before we had pulled that card, one card kind of just fell out as I was shuffling. I was shuffling first, and that was the Two of Swords. And it was more or less interpreted to be in an upright position. Do you want to say what you felt that indicated?
Well, I kind of felt as though the Two of Swords might have indicated that there might have been a stalemate, something that was like a truce or a standstill that may have caused the inertia that you were feeling. The Death card kind of indicates inertia. And we decided, since he dropped the Two of Swords and it was just one card, that it might be pertinent to the reading, as you mentioned that, in my family, whenever a card would fall to the floor when they were shuffling cards, it would mean what falls to the floor comes to the door. It's something that you should pay attention to. It's a card that fell out because it's trying to get your attention. At least that's what my family felt when they were doing their regular deck of playing card divination. So we do that with the tarot from time to time as well. And so the Death card to me was indicating stagnation or a standstill of some sort, maybe feeling stuck. Could even be writer's block if you're a writer. And it just seems as though there was just no movement around you at that time. It might have been external forces. There may have just been blocks in place that were holding you back. How do you feel about that?
Excuse me. And in general, there was maybe a sense of unwillingness to see a change that is actually being offered. Maybe the inertia is basically tied into that
Right.
One was self-inhibiting because one doesn't really want to accept some changes.
Well, I'd like to say that I feel the way the Death card came out for me that day. I don't know so much about the Two of Swords, other than maybe it was a nice balanced kind of energy in the day. Well, we had the day off Friday, and we spent the day at the water park with our granddaughter. And so while we were there, they have the lazy river. I could call it the lazy river of sticks, perhaps, because the water was very warm that day. It was a nice hot day in the metropolitan area, and so basically I was floating along and just letting the river take me where it would take me. And so I sort of feel like it was that kind of day. Just let things go and just take it easy, slow down, maybe even slow to a stop, and let things just move around you.
Gosh, Banshee, that's kind of deep for the shallow pool that we were in when that happened. Yuck, yuck, yuck. But in general, it was a day of kind of slowing down and a pause to consider. And of course, any time we spend with our granddaughter is always wonderful. But yes, you have to pause and consider, oh my goodness, summer is almost over. And, most kids are going to be going back to school pretty soon.
That's true. That is true.
So let's go
So
on
let's
to the
move
next
on to
day.
Saturday. Saturday was the Lovers Reversed, I believe. And
A lot
I'll let you
of
lead with
major
that one.
arcana.
that is true.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of major
We
arcana
had the
lately.
Hermit before that and the Wheel of Fortune.
And also,
the
it
last few
seems
days.
like the latest trend of these last three cards that we pulled were reversals. And
That too.
reversals aren't always a bad thing. Sometimes, there are lessons that have to be learned, or
So what did you think about this card then? What is the lesson there?
Well,
What's going on?
what is the lesson of the lovers? I kind of felt it might allude to some of us who may be in a relationship that has been going nowhere. You've kind of felt like maybe love or some energies that you have been putting out in some kind of relationship. Maybe even it's a work relationship, it could be, and you don't feel that what you're putting out is being reciprocated. That's kind of the way I felt about it.
And I felt that just like the previous day, but in a different way, it was sort of a pause or time to consider where one's position was in this. If you need to actually be drawn into that situation and that question and make that decision, or if you want to take more time and reflect on it. The Lover's card usually does represent some sort of positioning between a good position and a bad position, an easy
Yes.
position and a hard position.
The high road or the low road.
And a lot of times that's kind of steeped a little bit in regular Christo Western world ethical boundaries, but some of that still does hold true in a way that sometimes it does appear that going the easier route is ultimately less satisfying.
Absolutely. And what about Sunday? So for today,
Sunday, well,
I know that today we brought the.
it was the Seven of Swords also reversed, and I felt that there was a
Yes.
surprise going on here. There was a sense that one would look at this and say, it's deja vu in a way. It's sort of like the return of a situation, not so the return of a physical reality, unless the reality, something coming back into your life provokes that memory, that deja vu kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's unexpected. You basically weren't expecting it to happen, and now you kind of have to decide if you're going to deal with it or if you're just going to not deal with it.
Well, and I went in a similar but a little bit divergent direction in that I felt that maybe, you were feeling a little bit of guilt or remorse over some actions you've taken that affected others in some way that now maybe, as the air is cleared, the clouds have parted, you kind of regret. You kind of regret doing these things because it maybe set some things in motions that you're unhappy about. And so you're feeling now you're like you need to make that right. So this might be I felt that, today might be the day to make right a wrong action that you might have taken or felt that needed to be resolved.
So, from how I was looking at it, I thought each of these days sort of offered ideas about choices and the basic quality that if you refuse to choose now, you have still made a choice, but you're only putting off an inevitability. And that now the idea here on today's date is that although it's unexpected, it has already come back on you. So, in other words, just within a few days, the idea that you're putting off a possible decision is what it sort of looks like these last few days were about.
Very good.
Already.
So that's basically what we have for you from the last 3 days, just a little bit of a recap, and maybe you can think about the cards again and decide. And remember, if you are tuning in and you have not been to our Facebook or Twitter pages, we will be doing this. We will be doing this nightly. We will be pulling a card for the next day, and actually on Twitter, I do tweets for tomorrow. So we basically give a one-sentence synopsis of what we have on Facebook. And we encourage you to go back to our Facebook page and check out the full posting there. So whichever way you go, you just want the little tidbit, or if you want the whole kit and caboodle, go to our Twitter page or go to our Facebook page.
And then during the first part of the broadcast, we'll review those last several days since the previous broadcast and see if we can put it together, make context, rationalize that it actually did happen that way or not.
And give you some examples of things that may have happened in our lives that related to the cards like I just did. So, I mean, I'm sure Oberon will chime in on some of this eventually as well. And, that's what we want. We want to get feedback. So if you are going to, absorbing these messages daily on our Facebook page or Twitter, feel free to chat with us about it here at this time on our live streams.
Very good. So,
Yeah. So I think now is time for, if you're ready, a meditation.
the meditation. Very good. Okay, so
What are we meditating on today?
Today we're going to move right along through the cards, and we're going to meditate on the next card, which would be number 3, the Empress. But I did want to say first that what we're going to do is kind of streamline the process of the meditation, because I've looked at the last few meditations and thought, oh, we're just taking a while to kind of get you there. And so I think that since you understand my style, we're going to just make this really easy for all of us here. And what we want you to consider is that each of us has that ability to go to the realm, or whatever you want to call that. Maybe you want to just identify your own word, secret word, power word, whatever. When I tell you to use that, you can just think that in your mind, and then we're going to go there. So, like I said, we're going to do a meditation on the Empress, and we start now. So I want everybody to take a deep breath. And now I want everybody to think of that secret word or name. feel your descent into the realm of our meditation. Continue to breathe, relax. You are noticing that there is an abundance of greenery and growth all around you. Everything is lush. All vegetation, flowers, trees are just bursting forth in the height and heat of the summer. And everything is abloom and colorful and vibrant. And a part of that resonates deep within you, that you feel magnitudes of growth within yourself, as if everything is increasing in strength and vitality. And you look around everywhere and you see that effect on everything, that you see birds flying through the air. You see small little animals maybe scurrying about, munching on grass or flowers. Everything is partaking of the essence of life and nature itself. And all of the world is responding to this sort of enchantment that you are experiencing too. And so what is happening as you walk around, you notice streams flowing and a sunny sky with a few beautiful clouds drifting, almost in tandem with the streams blowing. You see the branches of the trees just moving along peacefully and calmly, and everything seems to be moving in one direction. So you walk along and follow that. And before too long, you see a clearing in a grand meadow. And there, sitting in the center of this meadow, is a beautiful, beautiful woman who is literally on a throne of flowers and vibrant growth that is everywhere. And in one hand she holds some sort of wand that seems to be flowering itself. And all around her are symbols of the time of summer and extreme growth, extreme height and heat, the totality of harvest, whatever you want to call that. And she gazes serenely in your direction, and you feel free and open enough to walk towards her. And as you come closer, you feel not that you have to kneel or bow, but that you can literally just sit somewhere near her and look over at her as she's getting ready to begin to speak. And you notice things like the crown of stars on her head, beautiful little bright nuggets of brilliance just shining there at you, instilling warmth and a white spirituality that burns in the best way possible. I don't know how that could be, but that's what we're getting there. And now you're ready to listen to her. And she motions with her free hand to just come closer a little bit, because she wants to whisper. And so as you take it all in and you breathe really deeply, bend closer to her and listen to her gentle words as she gives you the message of growth that you need to experience at this time. I'm going to give you a moment to absorb that message. And take just a moment longer if you need to. for suddenly you perceive a great fluttering of wings, birds flying very close, beautiful butterflies also flying around, minor gust of wind blowing like in a circle all around the area. And as you get up and back off a little bit, you notice that she's actually kind of disappeared from view, the beautiful lady in the middle of the meadow. And your time to return now to the actual world, taking with you forever her message, the message of the Empress, always with you. Remember, you can go back there. Just relax, take the time to breathe, to hear your magic secret name or word in your head, and you can go back there if you wish. But now we're ready to return, leaving everything exactly as it is. So as I do these sacred tones, we will slowly return to our regular world. So take a moment now. You're waking up. Breathe a little bit faster. If your eyes were closed, open them now. Or just feel yourself returning to normal. Take a moment to ground. Take a moment to relax, but also return your attention back to the here and now. And we'll see you again for another one of the Oberonificant meditations.
Oh boy. That was awesome. That was very nice and evocative.
Why, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very good.
Thank you. So
Wow.
then,
Well, you know what it's time for now. And I also liked, I got an interesting message, let me just say.
did you want to share that at all?
No, I'll just wait and
Okay.
see if it comes forth, and I'll let you know later.
Well, as your handy guide,
Yes.
I don't exactly perceive myself doing those messagings. I'm just sort of there to guide you in and out. So someone will have to tell me what they got out of that. And even if you happen to listen, oh, there we go again, dropping cards.
Oh my.
I dropped a reversed Eight of Pentacles. And this is saying, don't waste your time. Put your efforts to work. Don't be lazy. Follow through.
Don't
Listen.
slack.
Don't slack. And if you have a mentor, listen to your
Absolutely.
mentor. They probably know because they probably have been there themselves. So anyways, this is the time for us to do our group tarot reading for our audience.
For the week.
And
This
it's
is
for the
your
week.
reading.
This is my reading for the week, as opposed to the one Banshee will do on Thursday nights.
Which, of course, we both interpret the cards, but this is his special reading, so I will
Right.
shuffle too, correct?
That is correct.
Do you want me to
So,
cut this time?
After you shuffle, you can cut, and I'll put them back together. My card is a 3-card reading that basically focuses on our physical at this time, our mental, and our spiritual. So I'm going to let Banshee go ahead and shuffle the cards. I'll have a sip of my coffee.
The meditation was nice and calming after all the coffee I drank, so
Glad to
with
hear
all
it.
that Aries fire energy floating around, and I'm wearing the red of Aries today as well.
For those who might be wondering, our statue here, our display, this is it Lady or just
I would call her Lady Fortuna.
Lady Fortuna? And of course, we take a lot of our inspiration as card readers from the Wheel of Fortune, which
Yes.
is possibly an aspect of her and her overall sense of being there. I don't know specifically that she's tied into that, but I kind of look at it that way. Now, Banshee will cut the cards.
We do have another statue of Fortuna, and that one does have the wheel in it. This one does not. This has a cornucopia filled with coins spilling out to the ground below her, and I put a nice green stone on top to enhance that. Gee, I don't know. Could be my lucky lottery statue.
So we have shuffled and cut the cards, and I've also cut you off. But we're going to go
all right
ahead
this
and do
time.
the reading. And this first card will be for the audience, and it represents the physical experience right now at this time, or the physical sense of being. Oh dear.
Oh.
We have the devil. And this card could be saying right now that people are having a hard time resisting some temptations. Some people maybe...
Well, this is for now in the next few days, right? Or
Right.
the week,
It's for the week
ahead, yes.
that people maybe are in that mode of being more tuned in to more of their materialistic desires at this time. So it could be that this is a vacation time for people, and that maybe some people could actually be tempted to make a few, if nothing else, foolhardy choices. It could just represent the idea, too, that for some of us in our audience, that we are experiencing the idea of some amount of oppression in our lives too. I mean, if we wanted to really get away from the other idea that I'm talking about, the devil can represent a sense of oppression in our life. And our environment right now could be that. It could be oppressive. It could be the feeling that we have no choice but to make some of the choices we're doing, and some of those are more materialistic than spiritual choices. So I'm seeing that as the possibility of what we're involved with in this week, or how we're thinking about ourselves on the physical level.
Well, as I look at the devil and I think about the days ahead, we're just starting, excuse me, the work week after all. I could be operating in an oppressive work environment right now. Maybe work is getting you down. Also, on the other hand, rather than this being an external force, it could be you. Perhaps you are obsessed with work lately and obsessed with your job. You're just overwhelming yourself with it all, and you need to bring back some boundaries here, and you also need to bring back some balance into your life. Obviously the devil can mean other types of addictions or obsessions that we may have. So be aware that these are in play, I think, for the week ahead, and try to moderate yourself and try to keep perspective, maintain balance.
Okay, very
And
good.
that's, of course, in the physical realm, because in a sense, all of these things will affect you physically. You might suffer from headaches or migraines. You might suffer from, stomach disorders or whatever stress can induce, or the bad habits can induce. Perhaps if you're overindulging in food or drink, well, you know the drill. Your bathroom might be getting overused. So at any rate, whatever the case may be, moderate.
Okay, our next card is going to be involved more with the idea of what you might be mentally feeling or mentally dealing with for the next week or so. And that card is the reversed Three of Cups.
Oh, wow.
And the reversed Three of Cups, so I can kind of hedge with that a little bit. Sometimes I get certain feelings about it, and sometimes I get some that are a little bit different. But what I am feeling here right now is maybe a sense that something was a little overboard in terms of a party or a celebration. Maybe somebody got a little bit too carried away with themselves. It's kind of interesting because it's coming after the Devil card, which also could talk about an overindulgence of some sort. This card is saying that maybe one is processing that, maybe one is thinking about that, maybe one felt a little embarrassment afterwards, or wondering when the sense of embarrassment or atonement of some sort may happen there.
Well, clearly it fits right in with the devil. Now, the devil was physical manifestations in a way. This card is the mental, correct?
Yes, that's
so
correct.
It seems as though, your mind is set. maybe your mind is driving you to overindulge in some area. For example, you know what they say about emotional eaters. So it's possible that, you're letting some situations that are affecting you mentally and emotionally uh, overwhelm you to the point where you might be overeating to compensate. You're getting out that tub of ice cream. You might be partying too hardy. It seems like now that now that this card has come out, I'm leaning towards that over the overwork element I mentioned previously. So it is possible too, though, that this could be saying that you're overworking yourself is causing you to go to the extreme on the other end of things. You're self-medicating, perhaps. So be aware, of these possible issues and look within and think about, writing this course if this is the case. We'll all have to watch this a little bit this week. Sounds like we might be off to a little rocky start this week. Let's see what else you've got brewing.
Yeah, I
here
wonder
on
what
the
else is going on.
spiritual level
So
here.
is there, something better in the spiritual or not? And once again, we're having this card
Wow.
here, the Seven of Swords reversed. And this is covering our area of how we are feeling spiritually. And spiritually, maybe we are expecting a situation to return to us that maybe we felt was not finished or not done yet. And that maybe there was some sense of a competition or a game or some sort of confrontation going on, and we are wondering if spiritually we're going to be addressing that fight or that conflict again.
Wow. Well, you know what, Oberon, this is very interesting because we just pulled this card for today, correct?
That's correct.
So this might be one of the leading driving factors to all the rest of this in the reading. But I would say, too, what I saw with this card, and I'm still going to go that way, is that there may be something that we're trying to resolve and absolve ourselves from. Maybe it's left a really huge sense of guilt or remorse, that you want to right a particular wrong in some ways, and you're because of that and the feelings associated with that, it's putting you under a lot of undue stress. So maybe you need to get this out into the open finally, clear the air, and try to pull yourself together, because I think in some cases maybe there's some unresolved issues that may be causing this imbalance in our physical and mental lives, right, for the week ahead.
That's very interesting. I'm not sure if we're getting it exactly the same. I kind of also feel too that there's a struggle representing this card where somebody feels that maybe they have to correct somebody else's behavior, or they have to deal with somebody else's mistakes or somebody else's actions on some broader level. I don't know.
Well, that's good. Maybe what we should do, since we both have slightly different takes on this, is why don't you sum it up the way you see it, and then I'll sum it up the way I see it.
The
Yeah, the
overall?
whole kit and caboodle.
Okay, well, from some sort of physical level, what I'm seeing is that one is feeling more inclined to give in to temptations or give in to a more materialistic feelings or desires at this time, or somebody's thinking about that, somebody's thinking that they're looking for something that comforts them that is more material or physical, and yet on a mental level they're also sort of feeling like maybe that's part of what their problem is that they're too drawn into those physical dependencies or ways of rationalizing their existence. So they're maybe understanding that mentally, but they're not totally accepting it. And then finally, from the spiritual angle, maybe the idea here is that we are waiting for something else to return to our lives, and maybe that is that sense of something that transcends these feelings, and maybe that's something that really gives us a sense of getting back towards our less materialistic selves.
Okay.
How'd I do?
That's your take on it, and that's great. I'm looking at the devil in a couple of different ways. There could be something physically right now holding you back, literally. I don't want to say that maybe somebody has had a bad encounter with the law. So I'm just going to throw that out there. And of course, maybe on the mental level, it was because of some overindulgence. Whatever the case may be, I would say that something is holding you back on a physical level. It could be a dependence on substances, it could be a dependence on food. Something is holding you back from where you want to be. You've been partying hardy, and it all seems to be because basically on a spiritual level you're feeling some heavy guilt and remorse that it's past time to let go of. Maybe this is the week to do it. Maybe this is the week to break new ground and overcome and persevere this. So that's sort of where I'm leaning with what I see here.
Well, that was very interesting. I think
Absolutely.
both interpretations have a lot of merit in them, so we'll have to see how people feel, if they let us know if that works or not. But that was our reading, my reading for the week, and next Sunday we'll have another reading for the week. So now I think at this time we're
Just going to move my chat thing up here so I can see it, and just remind everybody that, if you have any observations on any of the cards we pulled and you want to chime in, absolutely feel free to do so. And maybe this is a good point to remind people that, of course, we're doing this for entertainment purposes only.
Oh, that's right.
And that, our advice does not replace a doctor's or therapists or lawyers, legal counsel. We always tell you to seek out authorities, counselors, etc. If you relate to anything we're saying, it's up to you to move forward and seek out the appropriate resources to help
So
you.
basically, you have just heard the Divine Dabblings disclaimer.
Disclaimer, the DDD. Hey, I like that. We will use that in the
There you go.
future. Good job.
Okay, so now we're gonna have
Chat a bit.
we're gonna continue our triple Ds, and we're gonna do divine debates and discussion. And we had decided that we wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of us reading as a team is sort of new on this context or this level. It's not totally new. We've always, maybe in our personal readings, discussed how we were reading, but we're going to talk about some of the mechanics or concepts or conceits behind that.
Conceits, I love that. No, nobody's conceited here. It just dawned on us that we have somewhat different approaches to the tarot. And of course, maybe we've known that all along, but we thought to ourselves, what if we combined forces, joined forces, and read the cards together to give people different perspectives on the reading? It might be that, what you're telling them is what they need to hear, as opposed to what I'm telling them, or some combination thereof. Because a lot of times what we have to say kind of merges and blends together. But sometimes we see different aspects and elements of the cards, and our intuition may lead us to say different things to you. So it's not a matter of us covering our derrieres. It's basically you determining what's right for you. And does that about describe it to you, how you look at it?
Well, I think some of that is just what one has to accept as a certain nuance or style of tarot readers, and that some tarot readers maybe get very specific thoughts or intuitions, and some maybe get more general ones. And what we're trying to do is have enough of a dialogue between us to where we kind of hop back and forth between us, and so we either clarify or we bring up points of discussion or difference between us.
And also, some of us might not pontificate, actually go into more greater spiritual detail on a card than, say, the other would. Like, for example, I am holding the Six of Cups in my hands, and the Six of Cups. So basically, when I look at that card, I'm going to set it in front of Oberon here. So when I look at that card, I'm saying, you're in your happy place right now. Fond memories, maybe you're at a reunion of some sort, good times. And Oberon might say,
Well, to some degree, I think this has a more specific idea about thinking about things that are maybe a little further in the past, thinking about your childhood. But in general, it's a happy place. It just sort of seems to be more about like, why don't I have that now? Why do I have to think so far back to get it? Dating
there he
myself.
goes. So, for example, that's basically an example of how we would do it. Like here, okay, I've just pulled the Nine of Pentacles, which is a woman alone in her garden with all the bounty surrounding her. And I would just say, wow. So you enjoy, a solitary life. You have a comfortable solitary life surrounded by all the things that bring you joy and plenty.
And I mostly agree with that one. I don't think that this implies necessarily total solo, solitaire kind of life. I don't think that this implies that the person is not with somebody else in some relationship. But for the most part, it sounds to me like their view about how they enjoy life and how they enjoy the life that they have is sort of more unique.
So some of us may be more to the point than, maybe I'm like the haiku of interpreters, that I basically do things in very short sentences, and you do not.
I sort of run on.
I wouldn't say that. He provides more detail and more color commentary, perhaps, than I do. I just get down to the nitty gritty details.
Well,
And
I think it goes to kind of maybe a little bit that explains the nature of our rather unique
relationship.
relationship. So we would say first, Wonder Tarot Reader powers activate. Form of the Nine of Pentacles.
That's so awesome. But
Okay, but so what I really mean with that, though, is the fact that from an astrological point of view, there's an interesting conundrum or situation with us, which is
oh,
that you are an Aries and I am a Scorpio, and we both have a planet in particular, Mars, which adds our
yep.
fiery kind of more aggressive manner. So those who say that I'm always right or that I argue a certain way, well, I'm a Martian. Of course I do. But you are too. So therefore,
I am not always right, however. That could be, and it's really ironic that I sometimes am as compromising as I am because I'm born on the Aries Taurus cusp. And so Taurus can be very stubborn as well. So Aries might be, my way or the highway, but Taurus is also like, I'm not moving. This is my opinion and it stands. So I kind of feel as though I could be really double trouble.
well, we have the same planet which has a lot of drive and initiative built into its aspects or what it lends to our signs, but we are clearly very different signs. Your sign is considered a fire sign, and my sign is considered a water
That's
sign.
true.
So there is a natural friction or diapposement
There's a
towards
chemical
each other.
reaction that goes on there.
Yeah. And in addition, I have a different planet also. So I have co-planetary rulers, whereas you just have one. My other planetary ruler is Pluto, so that sort of gives me that ookiness, that I clearly demonstrate. But at any rate, because we have these kind of corollary yet contradictory things between our astrological makeups and or personalities, It presents an interesting way of how we work as a
A
partnership.
dynamic.
A dynamic, if you will. Thank you.
Yeah, so basically we decided to combine forces for this. And also, once we do private live stream readings for people, when we set that up, we will be doing them as a team. Now, if people specify one reader over the other, that may be fine as well.
No, I would
No.
have my feelings hurt if I don't get picked.
That's true.
I would.
You don't want to hurt our feelings, so maybe you would rather have us both be there. So, and we're there to comfort and support each other. But no, I think that you would find it very useful to get the different perspectives that we offer as a team, and that's the whole concept behind why we chose to do this that way. And we hope you agree, in the end. And as we go along, I'm sure, because we really have not worked this way in tandem, would you say, ever?
No, not really, not like this.
No. And so we are going to grow with it, I'm sure, in time. We connect so easily with each other anyway. One seems to know what the other's thinking and vice versa, that we feel that, as we grow as a team doing this, we can only better support you in, your questions that you want answered or resolved.
So we kind of wanted for our own benefit to see how that worked for us. But in general, since we've been reading for literally, decades, and usually reading for the public in different ways, for reading for some parties, some prearranged parties that were specifically for the purpose of us reading. We worked as a team, but not in the same way. We would basically divide up the clients that were there. Sometimes we would overlap and we would read for the same person, but not together. But we learned a lot about dealing with each other's styles, where mostly the hardest consideration might have been basically timing between us, that one of us might have needed to spend more time with some patrons or some clients than the
Yes.
other one did, things like that.
Well, and also we read different things sometimes. I wouldn't just read the tarot. I'd often read from a regular deck of playing cards, and I will be bringing those into the mix at some point, as well as Lenormand cards and maybe some other tools from time to time as well. I will share on occasion.
And likewise, myself, having read for years, I kind of have added some things occasionally to the repertoire, as it will, that sometimes I would use maybe a different kind of card to lay down alongside the reading I was doing, as a way of presenting a different point of view, or something corollary perhaps, or different, or to expand on a meaning of card. And I learned this from other readers who said, oh, well, sometimes I pull one of the runes, or I use some sort of runic thing, and I read that in relationship to the card or the spreads. And I've also done this a little bit, and I think this was explained in some of our intro and bio things about ourselves, that I have a small talent or ability to psychometrize, and so sometimes that has been helpful for me too, to just being able to feel the vibration of some material. In our readings here, it'll be different, because obviously we're not really in a physical location with somebody, but we think it'll be very interesting, because our viewpoint will be more inclusive of different factors in the querent's life, perhaps, and that let's
true.
just say there's a 50% or an extra chance that somebody will hit something differently that will mean more to you by having both of us read for you.
Well, we are now into the last 10 minutes of the
Yeah,
first hour.
we're near the end of our first hour,
So we open it up at this point. If anybody joining us has any questions they'd like us to read on, this is the time that we are opening the door for readings. I'm just going to shuffle my cards here. And I am going to throw down for myself, while waiting, a personal card for me that I will share with you. And I'm just wondering how my work week will go. just a general one card for myself. And the reason is that, this is a full week. Last week I had 2 days off, and I'm coming back to a full week this week, and I'm just curious what it might say about what I can expect, what I'm coming back to. Let's see. Haha. You can show that one. I've got the Two of Swords upright, which we have seen the Two of Swords just not that long ago.
Not very long ago at all.
Not very long ago at all. And the Two of Swords means to me, well, I think there's just a steady balance this week. It's not, I wouldn't call it necessarily ideal conditions. It seems to me I'm going to be having to make some decisions in the week ahead and use my better judgment as to how I conduct my business in the week ahead, maybe how I organize my work. After all, being off for 2 days, you usually come back to things that have been waiting for you. So I'm sure I have plenty of stuff on my desk that I will have to tend to.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you may.
I want to ask a yes or no question, and I want you to interpret it for me.
Oh, sure, you may.
All right.
So let me just clear the cards for my question here. I shuffle a
And
few
I'm not going to
times.
say the question aloud, though I might hint about it once we start discussing it. And I think that's kind of in nature with what we do when either of us do this particular reading, the 3-card spread. And if you recall right, Banshee, many years ago I taught you this reading. It was probably one of the first readings I taught you.
Yes,
'cause I already
actually,
knew it
it's
at
the
that
first
time.
one that I actually got a handle on because, of course, the Celtic Cross, the more popular reading in the tarot, that's how many cards, right? So I had a harder time memorizing that than this reading. It's
So I
easy.
taught you that somewhere in 77-ish.
My goodness, yeah, a long time ago.
And it was basically a 3-card reading. And then years later, we started noticing this reading showing up in people's books.
Mm-hmm.
But when I told you about the reading, I told you that I learned it from a girl that I had sort of dated briefly before I met you. And
Yes.
that she was a Dianic sort of witch or magical person. And I knew her in this brief kind of stormy relationship, but she knew how to read this particular reading and explain it well to me. And I never learned exactly where she got it from. She was a younger gal. I did meet some of the members of her Dianic group. I dropped a card. I'm always doing
Yeah,
that.
I don't know why you keep doing that. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, that's not a bad
No,
card.
it isn't at all. I'm just
But
being
it means you
hyperly
have
dramatic.
resources and you want to hold on to them.
Yeah.
At least it means you're not penniless, but maybe, you shouldn't hold on quite so tightly and perhaps let me.
Okay, so I'm going to think of my question now.
Oh, I'm sorry. What
That was
the
the
name?
Four of Pentacles.
It was the Four of Pentacles. Thank you, producer. The Four of Pentacles, sorry, we pulled. And it basically means that you have resources available to you, but, don't hold on so tightly. I just want to remind our audience that if anybody's there listening on the chat and you have a question, we'll be able to answer it as soon as I'm done with his yes/no question.
Well, I still have a few more minutes, so don't rush me. I'm really thinking about this
Take your
question.
time. It's
Okay, I think I'm ready.
all right.
I thought about this question until I can think of it no more.
I'm looking for aces and I'm counting to 13. There's an ace on the 12th card, so I go to the next pile.
So she has drawn the Ace of Wands.
I
in the
got
first
another
pile,
ace on the second
and she has
pile.
drawn the Ace of Pentacles.
Reversed. Oh my goodness, and I got another one. So you
I
go.
had Before you interpret, I just want to explain the
I
reading a
was
little
going
bit.
to, but
Okay,
you may
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, by all means.
Well-
It's your question.
Yeah, I was just going to say the reading, as I mentioned, was taught to me many years ago. I always called it the three aces method, but it's a yes or no method. The idea is that you use or count off three piles of cards, no more than 13 in each pile, and you actually stop before 13 if you hit an ace and you move to the next pile. And so you will always either have 13 or you will have less than that in some form. But the method of interpretation is how many aces you actually turn up. So we got three aces.
He's got a yes whether he wants it or not. Now, most people, when they ask a yes no question, want a yes, but sometimes you want a no. And if you have three aces, it looks as though it's a definite yes. There's nothing much I can say other than that, other than it seems as though it might involve something growthful, a project that would bring you happiness.
Oh my goodness.
Would you say that's true?
That's very true.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Uh,
And so the other thing about this reading is if we had go to 13 cards in one pile, because he didn't get an ace, and he got a regular card, a non-ace card, one of the different cards in the tarot, you would interpret that card. The two aces would mean probably yes, and this would be a factor in that probable yes. And I would say here, because it's the sun upright, that the yes, it is definitely leaning towards yes, because it's such a positive card of joy and fulfillment and success in and of itself. The sun is a card of success, so that seems to indicate that yes, and it will be successful.
the card to me is also a card of illumination. So sometimes to me there's another idea too, that maybe what's positive with this card happening is that you find out something, or something you didn't see, you're now seeing clearly, and that may be a factor in why it ended up being yes.
And now, if the card was reversed, it could indicate maybe why there's a probability of yes. It's not a definite yes. Because let's say the sun reversed is showing what? That plans could be delayed, success is postponed. So there may be delays involved with you getting the results that you desire.
The sun reversed is sort of like it's cloudy.
Yeah.
It's not sunny, it's
Maybe you
cloudy.
have doubts about
So
it.
you can't see things, or you have clouded feelings about, what's going on. Well, on that note, it
Well-
looks like we have kind of sort of finished off our first hour.
Yes, we have. And so there were no questions from the audience, so that's fine. We will move on to hour number 2. We've got a packed session of activities. And the first one is my question deck. And with the question deck, we've introduced this before. I'm going to pull it out of its little sack. And so the question deck is a deck of questions, and we just randomly pull a card from our tarot deck to answer the question in our own inimitable styles. So what I like to do for this one is I take the cards and we just kind of spread them out in a pile. I'm going to move Fortuna just a little bit. There we go. Give myself some room here by Oberon. And there we have one big pile of 78 cards to answer our questions with. And if it's a question that we've had recently, I might skip it and move on to one we haven't. I think I'm just going to draw from the top, so I don't know if I've mixed these up at all, so some of the ones we used might be there. We'll just see how it goes. And so basically, this is a great exercise for even our viewing audience to participate with us in. Whatever card we draw, we're going to look at the symbology and decide how we feel that card answers that question, using our intuitive abilities, using some of what we see on the card. So the audience, we all have abilities, and we all have senses about us, and images can evoke responses. So if you want to chime in and write down something in the chat related to what you see, you're welcome to do so and encouraged to do so. So my first question is, we did do that one. I'm not going to do that one again. I think we did that one too, so now I'm getting angry. Oh, here's one we did not do. Why do bad things sometimes happen to good people? And I guess by that they mean really bad, like tragic events or, So, I'm going to pull a card at random.
You pulled the Six of Swords.
And I'm going to start
Upright.
this one if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Because sometimes you have to travel that journey. You have to experience that event in order to grow, in order to move on, perhaps. In order to, and as you can see by the tone of the card itself, it's not happy. It's not a happy lesson that you must learn, but life isn't like that. We all have good and bad lessons to learn in life. It can never be a perfect world, and I don't care.
It was meant to be on some level.
In a way.
And in a way, I would say that's karma, or it's what some people would call karma. It was meant to be. And even though that is not the meaning specifically of this card, it's what I felt from this card is that it was meant to be. It was somehow a karmic situation that, as you said, the person was meant to feel this sadness. And there still was a greater good in a way. If you look really closely, and I hadn't always noticed this until one day I finally noticed it, that there's a woman who's sitting there, or it appears to be a woman. She's cloaked and she's just sitting there. And as you said, she was sort of sad or dejected. But sitting next to her is a smaller figure, and it's a child apparently, so it's probably her child. And maybe the man is related to them, or maybe he's just being helpful to them. But to me, she made the better choice, because even if she didn't want to leave, she was taking care of somebody who was not necessarily responsible for their own existence. She had a greater care or responsibility to take care of somebody else. And that's why sometimes bad things might happen to good people too, is because they have to make allowances for other situations in their lives that are not specifically about them. And I always hated it. I really hated it back in the more new agey era of our community, when people would say, oh, well, only people that don't think good thoughts are the ones who get cancer, or the ones who have colds all the time. And I just thought that was really cruel beyond imagining, because it just happens. And I've been very blessed in my life that I've had hardly anybody have those kind of situations. But I would probably just scream at them if somebody ever said that about somebody I knew who ended up with something. Okay, I'm really going on too long. I'm sorry.
No, you're not actually. But I did have a comment to make about the child, because...
Go ahead.
Well, I just thought here, because the child is so in the background that one wonders if it's not the person's inner child, maybe a wounded inner child. This person's trying to move away from, memories of the past that have harmed and hurt them, or memories from their childhood even, or something that's touched them to the very core of their being.
Well, what else is interesting too, because sometimes you can, and the Rider-Waite deck is really good for this, you can have a lot of your own adventures with the tarot cards.
Yes.
But as I'm looking at the boat, I'm realizing, off to their left, that's pretty much to their left on the other side from where they're at, it looks like the waters are more or less calm.
Can I hold that up again just to...
Sure.
Go ahead.
The waters are more or less calm, and there's some trees on some island or islet over there. But to their right, where the person is oaring from, the waters have a little bit more of a moving quality. And so there's a sort of a division there, in the sense that maybe once again a choice is being made, and that the choice is moving them somehow eventually towards something more peaceful, away from something that looks a little bit more movement oriented, or what's the word I'm looking for? Choppy.
Oh,
You know,
okay, yes,
choppy. Choppy water.
choppy water.
There you go. So
That's
do
right,
I
because
get to
it's
pull a
calm
card
on
now?
one side and choppy on the other. That's
I
very
almost
awesome.
have never noticed that before. I've noticed the child, and
There's so much imagery on these cards that, yes, you can really get lost in them. And that's why this is such a great exercise, especially for people just learning and exploring the tarot.
didn't we have this one before, or is this just
Nope.
like always the eternal question?
Why are we here?
Why are we here? Why are any of us here?
What is it?
We had that one earlier. It fell out. And it's come back again, only in the same exact way. The Eight of Pentacles.
Reversed?
Reversed. The Eight of Pentacles reversed. Why are we here? Well, I think that this is kind of twofold. It's to learn from our mistakes, to learn from the misapplications of our skills, or what we are sort of more or less being taught. But it's also to learn to respect the knowledge or wisdom of somebody else who's trying to teach us. And oh my God, my goddess, my goodness, I have to vent again. I'm sorry, that other card made me vent a little bit. This one's going to make me vent a little bit too. But I sort of feel like there's this thing that's been happening lately where everybody is an expert. Everybody saw something on the internet and they know more than people who study things for many years. And this came true to me recently in an appearance I had somewhere where I was talking about my particular area of interest, and something that a number of people shared to different degrees. And it just got a little bit, I won't say it got really testy, but somebody actually did end up agreeing with me at the end that the idea was that there's a lot of people who overlook somebody else's experience and education.
You're
on the
venting
matter.
again. Well, you know what?
You
I
can go
have
back
no
to answer
argument
that
with you
question.
about this,
I knew you
actually.
wouldn't.
None whatsoever. I think you nailed it. That's pretty much where I would go with it, is that we're here, and we will make mistakes along the way, and we're here to learn, but we're here to learn from those mistakes, not to create more mayhem. That auto insurance commercial or whatever about mayhem. You don't want to do that. You want to learn from your mistakes and to grow stronger and to create better, create positive things instead of negativity.
And maybe some of us don't have mentorships going on or have people that we're working with, but we need to just have, respect in general for that concept.
I got an idea. Let's draw one more, and this time we'll each draw a card for it.
That sounds good.
Good way to end it. What is happiness?
What is happiness?
What is happiness? Now, no doubt I'm going to get some bad card, and I'm going to have to answer this question as to what is happiness. Let's see what the tarot throws at me. For some,
It's the Page of Pentacles.
For some, happiness is being the eternal student, being a scholar, being somebody learned, being somebody who's always wanting to learn something new. Maybe they stay in that mode all their lives. That doesn't mean they don't become an expert in a field, but what it does mean is they understand that life is all about learning and growing, and what makes them the most happy is when they acquire new knowledge.
Well, I'm going to go a little more broader
Okay.
than you, and I'm going to say that it's just really perseverance to a goal, finding a way to really keep working with your goals. And that's what makes some people happy, is being more goal oriented. There's nothing wrong with that. That could be for maybe more of this kind of a personality, which in our occasional discussion on the court cards as they move through the pathway of the Fool, we were talking about pages and how the pages all have various qualities, and this is the one who sort of represents knowledge for knowledge's sake. This is the one. So I'm going a little bit back to what Banshee said, but in general, there's something about being affixed to your goal and being that oriented to seeing it through.
Well, I think that's good. You're saying goal orientation or being goal oriented brings a lot of people happiness. They derive the most happiness in life when they achieve their goals.
And it could in fact be somebody who is a constant student.
So I'll let you go first with ooh, this one.
The Tower reversed. Ooh, this is a card that most people don't like anyway it comes
I'm
up.
so glad you have to go first.
Well, the Tower reversed is actually really more or less better than what the other meaning of the card is. No?
Well,
You
I
don't think so?
disagree, but oh, good, we're going to have our first debate.
Well, I mean, nothing is ever totally good or bad in any of these cards, or how we see them happening, what their time frames might be, the actual deployment, if you want to call it that. But I think to some degree, the Tower represents some amount of liberation, but having to go through a process really of breaking everything down. A lot of things being broken down, a lot of things being challenged, and maybe really having to reorient to something different. So some people won't like that, but I sort of feel like there's an epiphany that happens, or there's an enlightenment in the wake of all that.
Wow. Well, I like that spin. I have a new one for you. You know what? For some people, happiness is ignorance. That's right.
Okay.
Happiness is ignorance. And so what ends up happening in the lives of these people is that they don't learn the lessons they need to, and they keep repeating destructive cycles over and over again because they refuse to learn the lessons that are being presented before them. Happiness is ignorance.
Well, I think you're more right than I was maybe initially, but I guess I would have to just temper mine a little bit and say that what is happiness, and that was how I wasn't really applying it to the card. Maybe happiness is realizing that after having gone through something that really challenged you, that there was some sense of enlightenment over
Epiphany.
Yeah, some sort of sense of being able to figure it out.
Neither of us are right or wrong. I think that's an awesome answer as well. And that's just, our knowledge of the cards and what we determine to be the answer, which makes this a great exercise and also for group discussion. And once we, have more of an audience joining in with us, this will become a very lively exchange, I'm sure. Good job. I think that was awesome. And we can move on now to our next, which maybe do we want to leave? We want to leave this pile out here, I think, for this. We were thinking of doing another simulated reading today, and we should pull a card. What do
we call that? We call that fantasy forecast.
Yes, fantasy forecasts, where we'll pick a card from the tarot and see what type of question it leads us to ask the cards. It could be about a person, either present or in history. It could be about events from history or that are in the news presently. And then we'll do a mini reading surrounding that.
And like she mentioned with our other reading, our debate readings, we sort of want this idea that, once we have more people who are participating, that maybe you out there would feel free to give us a suggestion on a fantasy forecast,
That would be awesome.
We'll definitely consider what we'll get.
For now, we're leaving it to our deck. Oh, wow, the card that you had pulled. So
this was the card that fell.
Well,
right?
but right.
Okay, so what do you think this card is asking us to ask on a fantasy basis?
Well, I think it's wanting us to ask about finances in some way or material concerns, and I could take this in a couple different directions.
It's the Four of Pentacles, which we did have earlier, and we find it to be in an upright position, which generally has a particular meaning.
Yeah, it's somebody who has a lot of finances or wealth surrounding them. He's got them under his feet. He's holding on tightly to one. It's just basically maybe, you've got a lot of wealth and you're just holding firm and holding tight with it, and maybe just being a little bit too possessive. On other levels, it could talk about possessiveness as well.
Well, as you recall, we're supposed to also basically do a reading about whatever question we are actually having here. So
Sure.
what is the question?
Well, okay. I'm thinking in terms of a couple different areas. Stock market and where it might be heading, because or for that matter, recession or not. So this could be a good question for this time if it's a current event we're looking at. If it's something else, we could ask in terms of, I had another one. So finances, possibly your retirement investments, stocks and bonds specifically. But I think that might come up if we do the recession thing as well.
I think we should ask a question specifically about whether or not nationally, globally, otherwise, are we going to go through a recession soon?
I think
Is the
that's
recession
great,
gonna
because the only
happen?
other thing that came to my mind was greed. We
Okay.
could do that too, but I think that's more appropriate at this time.
So do we want to do like a regular shuffle on this one?
Yes, we should both shuffle these and cut.
And pull just one card,
I
or
think
pull
we
several?
pulled 3 last time, did we not?
think
But I
we did,
can't
yeah.
remember.
'Cause
We're
we
just
did my
going to
more or
wing
less
this one.
3-1, which
We are
was
going to wing
general and 2 things about him.
I think the first card should be
The general thing
what
about
is
that.
going on at present.
Okay, so our basic question is, are we going to have another recession? Some peripheral ideas about that. How bad, how soon? Is there anything people can do to prepare? But generally, that's what it is. Go ahead. Shuffle and cut, I guess.
Oops. You realize we've had no cats today here.
Well, yeah, we didn't have anybody visiting us.
It was storming and raining a bit.
They might be
That
hiding.
sometimes makes them hide.
Seems like it stopped.
So no tarot cat today. All right. You want me to cut?
Cut.
All right.
We have another 4, the 4 of Swords.
Oh
And
boy.
this Swords is in its upright position. So the question was basically, is there going to be a recession, or is there going to be, or how soon will it be, or questions related to that. And I'm thinking when I see that card,
That's the overview, right? This
That's
is a
the
general. What's
overview.
happening now-ish.
and I'm thinking that maybe what it's saying is that somehow there is something pulling back or something at rest. And I don't know if that means that the stock markets, do you think, are just going to sort of balance there or just sort of sit there?
Maybe it means that things are hanging in the balance right now, but I agree with you about the at rest. It might mean that things are starting to stagnate. Instead of this forward or upward motion, it's kind of plateauing, and it
It's-
could go either way.
It's right. It can
I
go
feel
either
it
way.
could go
It's
either way.
possible that it's just resting, but it's not clear because it's the stock market. It can't rest forever. It has to do something.
Well, and we're not just talking about the stock market per se here. We're talking about the
The
global
economy.
economy,
Yeah.
even I guess
Yeah,
maybe
you're
the
right.
U.S. economy in specific. But right now we are seeing all kinds of volatility in the markets. So I am not sure, but it seems like right at the moment it's hanging on a precipice.
Okay, so now we're going to pull another card. Ooh.
Wow.
And it's the 9 of Wands upright. 9 of Wands. And this card is probably like we're girding ourselves as best we can. We're resolved that we have to basically stand up and hold up for what we have.
Basically, this person's preparing for a battle and looks like they've already been through one. Market's been kind of waffling. There are some issues, and there's possibly it's good to prepare for more and to brace for more. Now remember, they often say don't react, don't overreact when the markets start to shift and change. I am not a stockbroker here, and I'm not going to give you any kind of judgment or whatever, but what I would tell you is be ready and be prepared for whatever shifts and changes you may feel you need to do. Everybody's situation and circumstances are different. So by all means, know that there's some reason to be alert and aware.
Although that sounds like, we're sort of gritting our teeth and getting ready to bear it, it is the wands, which are basically growthful. So it is sort of saying that hanging in there is more the key, because
hanging tough.
The force of growth is on our side.
Right, hanging tough. That's why he's preparing for battle. He has everything in place to withstand the opposition.
Okay, and that's interesting. It's another wand. It's the Five of Wands. And this kind of goes to that idea about the economy, because I'm a moron when it comes to the world economy or anything, but I do understand that it's about the competition of forces, and sometimes it's the play of the market correction. The market is always corrects itself. Meanwhile, not most people, but there is always somebody who's starving in the world. But so what this card is saying is that probably to some degree what I'm sensing is that this is just par for the course. It's probably going to stabilize at some point, and that maybe it is just a sense of people competing, but it's in earnest, but it's not totally in earnest. It's sort of a thing that is. It's kind of like the economy itself. It's just sort of its own force.
Are we doing a 3 or 4? Are we going to throw a result?
We could resolve it if you think we should.
Well, I think this is showing the future, the coming soon to a future near you. And I'm not as optimistic about the Five of Wands. Obviously, if you are really a capitalist, you look at this as being healthy competition and things going smoothly. But what have we been seeing lately? We have been seeing very unhealthy competition going on with the impositions of tariffs, this back and forth kind of jostling for the best position. And it's not, I don't feel it's healthy competition. I'm concerned about it, and it might be playing into the volatility and the problems ahead. But this is not the final result, in my opinion. That's why I want to draw another card. I think it's just reflective that this is continuing, and it is causing the issues we're seeing here.
I say you draw the card this way.
Okay.
And let's think about what resolves the situation, or how we see it resolving.
How we see it resolving. We had that.
We pulled the Page of Pentacles. This was a card that was pulled earlier for the other reading. It wasn't pulled for this one, but
I think that's positive. I think that's
sure.
Positive beginning of financial recovery of sorts. I think it's maybe even better than that. So maybe that...
It's a pentacle, so it's a good sign.
Yeah.
But it's also, that card, as I mentioned before, was about perseverance towards a goal. And also pages are messengers. So I think it's saying that basically, with everything else considered...
There's going to be some good financial news.
There's going to be, but it's also a matter of just kind of holding on. There's things that are saying, wait. There are things that are saying, it's coming, just prepare. There are things that are saying, it's here, you're going to have to jostle for position, but eventually just hang tough as best you can. And hopefully, we all get through this.
And remember, the tarot is not... we're not telling you to divest or increase your stocks or investments at this time, but just to be aware of that this could be a trend, and just keep your eyes open. And remember that this is just a snapshot in time, subject to change.
And we are in the season of Lammas, if you celebrate. And Lammas is generally the season of looking at things coming back to us. It's a season of the harvest, and although the emphasis is more agricultural, we sort of know that the economy has that kind of idea there. So we're going to just take a moment to respect the season, to think about
Can I get it up?
Fortuna and the harvest, and remember that in time, everybody achieves their harvest. So some of us, it's a seasonal thing. In the time of the season, things happen. So we're hoping to have the blessings of Fortuna and the harvest.
Of bounty and abundance, and as you can see here, Fortuna has a cornucopia filled with coins, and there's coins spilling out here. So I've always noticed, just for me personally, that August is kind of a lucky. Well, very good. I think that went well. I don't even know what to say about that. Do we have time for another, or no? We should probably move on.
Yeah, I think we should move on.
So next on the agenda is how about some old school divination?
How about it? Here's your cards.
Well, as some of you may be aware who are listening today, or maybe you're not, I am kind of a collector of all things divination, all kinds of oracular devices, and this goes back to my childhood when my aunts had this little shoebox under their bed that had all kinds of little fortune-telling devices in them. And I kept them. I kept some of them. And some of them are really kind of old. Some of them are a little corny. They're more parlor game-like. Some of them might be a little off color by today's standards because remember, they were created in a different era. So I hope you'll find them interesting and entertaining, if nothing else. And so I have two to share today with you from decidedly different eras. The first one I'm going to share with you, pull it over here, is called Chi-Chi. And it is supposed to be a Chinese fortune-telling tool. Now, according to the booklet inside, they claim that somebody got this system, this method of divination from China, and they use bamboo sticks. You can hold one up, but mysteriously enough, there was a stamping of a number on each of these, and I think the numbers all may, I can't remember the exact number of sticks there are in the I Ching. I think there's
64.
There's 64 or 66. This actually goes up to 78. So I think it's not based on the I Ching, but that came to my mind when I first saw these. When I thought about them when I was older and more into divination. But also over time, my aunts apparently had a dymo machine, and they stuck the numbers on there with the dymo so that you could read them better. And but they used to play with this tool all the time. And now funny, because I pulled this one out again. So I'm going to have to say, when I was getting this device from upstairs, I threw the sticks for myself, and two of them fell out, and it happened to be numbers 48 and 49. And so I decided to read them for myself, and I'm going to share them now, but I'm going to pull another stick too, or I might have Oberon do one just to demonstrate the tool. But anyway, these are done in a very singy-songy kind of manner. They're poems about your future. And let's just say, they may be a little off color. They may be a little sexist. There's different things about them that are, let's say, from the era that they were created. And do you know how old this is? This is from 1925. I could barely read the date on there, but it's on the box. It's from 1925, which is probably, if it's not my oldest tool that I've inherited from them, it's my second oldest one.
So it's about 94 years old.
So keep that in mind as I read these, but I'm going to read you number 48, which it starts out with, your luck for today. 48 is good today for games of chance, if inclined that way. I think I am. I think I am. Your fortune. If you would use the talent fate has given you to write, you'd win success in prose or verse, in serious themes or light. A long-delayed package of value will shortly come to you. You will get your wish. Sure. And you know, what's funny about that is a long delayed package. Well, I was expecting an Amazon package yesterday, but then I got the news at the end of the day that it was coming today, and it did. Not too long before I pulled that stick. And so then the other part of this, the good fortune of the day, well, I did win $50 when I went out to buy my lottery tickets today, so I had a little bit of lucky fortune as well. Now let me read to you 49, which I also dropped to the floor. They say if you draw more than 2, though, you should just try again. You weren't concentrating enough, and you need to try again. And I will demonstrate how this is done in a minute. So number 49 was your luck for today. Today, the number 49, the fates declare, is very fine. Your fortune, inclined to trust to women all the secrets of your life, the fates advise you give it up and avoid much woe and strife. A little bit sexist there, I would say, just saying. Expect trouble from physical violence. No chance for your wish today. So they don't mince words, these old school fortune-telling devices. They will tell you bad things are going to happen to you. So it can be kind of nerve-wracking when you use some of these tools. We're not used to getting those kind of direct messages with a lot of the tools we're using today. But these are the kinds of things I was raised on.
This reminds me of an anecdote, if you don't mind.
No, go right
And
ahead.
this was my grandmother, my mother's mother, and my grandfather. They were somewhere in Chicago. That's where they grew up. And they were at a bar or something like that. And there was a woman who was reading palms. And so supposedly the story goes, my grandmother went to the palm reader. And the palm reader said, "Oh, you're going to be in a big accident." And my grandmother said, "You're full of you know what." And so she left the bar with my grandfather, and they got in a car and drove off, and they just went around a corner, and somebody hit them, and the car actually turned over and spun around a few times. And so my grandmother always used to tell that story when I was a kid.
So basically, I'm going to draw another one and demonstrate how this is supposed to work. And then maybe I'll have Oberon draw one quickly, and we will move on to my second tool. So let me do that, if I can have the camera on it. You're just basically supposed to carefully shake till one falls out. And that is your fortune. And I have drawn, number 11. So we will see what number 11, I'm not sure. Sometimes odd numbers are not happy numbers in here. We'll see. Your luck for today. Your number is odd, a double 1. Today all propositions shun. Your fortune. If you're married, have a care. Your mate may prove untrue. If you're single, you're deceived. The fates are warning you. You will lose a friend. Your wish is not a wise one. Well, I hope all is right in my marriage. No comment from the peanut gallery. Why don't you draw one and see what your fortune will be for today? Did you make a wish? You can make a wish if you want. A lot of these old school divination things were about wishes and making a wish. You've got a double one too. 44.
Number 44.
Why do I think that one's going to be happy? Okay. This is interesting. Your luck for today. 44 for luck today, but afterwards, it's hard to say. Your fortune. If you would win success in life, beware of being vain. Remember that by work alone, you'll cultivate your brain. Look for treason from a friend. You have made an unreasonable wish, Mr. O.
Unreasonable?
Yes.
Well, I never.
So I have tried to look for this game since, as you can see, this one is falling apart. And sometimes these games, as you'll find with some other tools I'll show over the months we spend together, they come back. They come back in time. But this one, I had a hard time finding. If I can dig it up, I will find something that comes very close to this. I got it through Amazon, and I think it came from India, but I'm not sure. But it's just it just seems very strange. The printing and the paper, everything seems like it was very low produced, and I'm not sure if it's the same. Some of the rhymes are the same, some are not, and also it had less. It had less numbering in it than this particular version. So I'm not sure if it's the same game or not. And when I find it, I'll bring it out and I'll bring this back out again to compare the two. So that is something from 1926 or 25. And now I have something from 1970. And it is called The Finger of Fate. And believe it or not, it was produced by Color Forms. You know Color Forms. Well, maybe some of you are old enough to know. They're the company that gave us those sheets that would have different scenes on them, or maybe bodies that you would dress with vinyl kind of things that would stick to it, so you could make different kinds of scenes or dress girls or boys in different kind of clothes. And I used to play with them a lot as a kid, actually. Well, needless to say, I had no idea that my aunt had this in her possession till maybe I was around 9 or 10 when I discovered it. And sadly, it too has seen better days. It's falling apart. Yes.
Do you know the date? Did you say the
yeah,
date?
I said 1971. So it's after the 1960s mania because it's got all these kind of hippie colors
Okay, well, you
to
were
it.
older than 10 in 71.
I know. Oh, whoops. I'm sorry about that. You're right. You're absolutely right.
I actually thought it was older.
It is not older. But I don't know exactly when they got this, to be honest with you. And it is falling apart. It's a little globe. Let me move this box. And yes, there is a finger of fate inside on a string, and what looks to be either a pendulum board or a Ouija board. And the pendulum or the finger is pointing down at one of those things. And so basically, either you do this with yourself or another person, like you would hold a planchette on a Ouija board. You could hold the sides of this orb, and you could ask it a yes/no question or ask it to spell something out. And where the finger seems to linger is where your answer would be.
Let's try it.
You want to try it? Do you have a question?
Close your eyes.
Okay. Well, we won't be able to see the answer
Well,
then.
open them after I ask the question.
Okay.
Am I hungry? What's it say?
It's going to take a moment.
Kind of like the question mark, eh?
Yeah.
It doesn't
It's
know.
not sure. It doesn't know.
Maybe I don't know.
Well, that was
correct.
kind of a silly question, maybe it's trying to tell you. See? Knows all, sees all. So this is really kind of cool, and it reminds me of a tool, again, that maybe I will bring out that I got, maybe within the last, I don't know, when was the Cosmic Eye store open in Wyandotte?
Oh, well, it was open for a while, but, for years. But
How many years ago
well, 'cause
since it closed? Because I think it was near the end of
since
there.
at least 2000-ish, 2001.
Okay. Well, at any rate, I think that around that time I got a pendulum board. It's a long rectangular board, and it has a thing on a string like this one that has a magnet. And so it seems to be attracted to the board by the magnet. It's very similar to this in a lot of ways. It has the same sort of motion. So someday I'm going to bring that out with this again to compare the two. You'll have to see it. I'm probably not describing it well enough, but the same things are on the board where you can ask yes, no questions, or you can have it spell something out for you, and there may be a little bit more than that as well. So very cool. And these are some of the things that people used to use in the past to divine with. Part of my secret stash.
Well, that's very interesting.
Thank you.
I like the colors, and I like the fact that it sort of is a little mystical looking,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And there were other similar things that I know you didn't have, but that we had in our family, we had some sort of thing that had many tarot cards. It was Zollers or something like that, and they were around in some. It looked like a casino roulette table, and you would throw a marble, and wherever the marble landed
Oh,
was
yeah.
by a tarot card, and then you could pick that tarot card and read that. So that was kind of cute. But in addition to that, we had things in our family like the Ouija board. We didn't really have a horrible problem with using the Ouija boards. I know a lot of people act like they're, a conduit straight to the nether realms. And
Well, my family got kind of wigged out by it. We used to use a Ouija board as well when I was young. That was one of the first things I think I played with my aunt before I realized they were doing fortune cards together. But then my aunt stopped. She refused to bring out the Ouija board anymore. So I don't know if she got some message that frightened her or what the situation was, but we no longer played it together, which I thought was a very sad thing to me because I never had a problem with it at all either. At any rate, I think we have time to draw our tarot for tomorrow. Would
All
you
right.
like to go ahead and do that?
Okay, we can do that. You want to use my deck or yours? Yours
My
is
deck
right
is
there.
right here, so why don't we go for it?
All right.
So I think you will shuffle first this time.
That means that I draw the card and I write first later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this time too, before we get involved, we'll remind you that our next broadcast will be next Thursday, and that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we hope to see you there. And we will have another installment of the Court Card Conversations, where we talk about how the court cards are traveling through the major arcana, the Path of the Fool. So we hope to have that, as well as more readings for people, more discussions and debates.
And I will have some reviews of some divination products. This time it will not be books. It will be some card sets and that I have recently procured. I won't give it away yet, but I will tease it later on Facebook and Twitter, so stay tuned for that.
And so this reading is to begin our week tomorrow, Monday. So
It is for Monday
is hopefully
specifically.
gives guidance to us for how we handle and go about our worlds tomorrow. That's Monday, August 19th.
Indeed it is.
Yes.
And by the way, I just double checked. You were the one who, I was the one who started and wrote first
Okay, very
yesterday.
good.
We like to mix it up a little bit so that every time we do a reading, one of us leads first with the interpretations.
Obi needs more coffee.
Banshee does not. Banshee really does not.
This is hard work.
Oh, it is. It is. But it's fun. Oh, did we
Another
have
card.
that before?
Yeah, we've had it twice before, actually.
Hmm.
Of all the cards, we had the 9, the Hermit, which is the 9 in the major arcana.
And the Hermit is reversed. Well,
So this is our card for tomorrow.
you're
And
leading.
what I feel with this card is that our Monday, our tomorrow, may find some of us feeling that what we know about our situations, we may want to keep to ourselves, and that maybe there's a time for us to think about what it is we're going to say, that we feel that we know some things and we know some truths, but we don't feel totally empowered to share those truths just yet. And so it may be that if you're at work and you're thinking that you need to set some things right, or if you're in a personal situation where you need to tell somebody what you feel is really going on, you may want to just hold that in a little bit longer, that maybe there's a way you can just deal with that situation without having to really share too much there.
Well, I'm looking at it for tomorrow and thinking to myself that perhaps somebody is going to come to you for some advice in some matter, whether it's at work or whether it's in their personal lives, and that maybe, you're not the best person to offer that advice. Either you are too vested in the situation, or you can't be objective in the situation, or you really don't have the knowledge and experience to give the type of advice that they are looking for. And so this is just an impression I'm getting, and I'm going to go with this with our, as we will also write this out on our Facebook page, and that's, I think, where I'm going at today. Be wary of how much advice you give to people, or even being the person, you may not be the person they need to go to for the advice that they're seeking, and you might be better off steering them to somebody else.
Yeah, I can't add a lot to that. I do sort of feel like this is just basically not the time to share what you know. And it could be because, like you're saying, you're just not really the person that has that insight. That sometimes, of course, unless you're me, where you're always right, you do sort of feel like, this is not necessarily the time to share. I never mind sharing, of course. So this would be
And telling you that he's always right.
Really the lesson for me tomorrow. This is the card for me tomorrow. It's like sometimes, Oberon, you need to let it go.
Get off your high horse.
Let it go, Oberon. I heard somebody say that once. Let it go.
Well, it's, and there's a number of ways that we could take this card all of the time. I might have taken this in any number of directions, but what I went with was what came into my head first, and I decided to run with it. And that's what I think we try to do here is, what is your first impression? How does it relate to things tomorrow? The moon is still going to be in Aries tomorrow, and that will be a full day in Aries as well. I'm not sure that really plays into this, other than, you might say words. The reason maybe you're not the best person to give this advice, give out advice tomorrow, is you might say things in haste and without really thinking them through enough, and really steer somebody in the wrong direction. So if the moon, where the moon is in Aries, is playing into this at all, it could be that, my opinion.
Well, I think that we've processed this one so much, it's cheese. Okay?
No, but I could say yes. And now we're at that time where we can open up for group readings again. Not group readings, individual readings. If there's anybody in our audience who has a question they'd like us to answer, whether it's a personal question, whether it's a political question, whatever the case may be, feel free to write to us now, and we'll do that for you. And if there are no questions, in the meantime, I think I'm just going to shuffle my Lenormand cards here and just show a spread while we're waiting to see if there's any questions. If there are none, I'm going to show you a spread I learned recently to do with my Lenormand cards. And I'm not going to be thinking of anything in particular. You can make a wish with this spread, I think, or you could just look ahead. This gives aspects to different things that are going on in your life at present. And I like it because they pair two cards in each position, which it's very useful to have that with the Lenormand, to have one card playing off another to answer a question. At least that's what I have found so far in my studies. And today I am using the Pagan Lenormand Oracle cards by Lo Scarabeo. And this reading that I got is from Caitlin Matthews' Celtic Lenormand deck, the book that comes with it. I'm not going to cut the cards. I'm just going to set them down. And I'm going to lay out two at the top and say, this is, and I'm going to take one from the top and one from the bottom. This is a window to my home. Oh, Junior Goddess is on with a question. And so we will continue this after we answer the question. Hi, Junior Goddess. Welcome back.
Hi. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for having a question.
I'm not going to do the Lenormand. I might throw 2 cards out for you, but
Okay, so it's essentially a yes or no question.
Yes.
How should we do this?
I think we should do the yes/no reading for her.
Okay, very good. I'm going to move your cards a little bit away, like that.
So if it's okay with you, Junior Goddess, we're going to do the 3 ace yes/no spread that we did earlier today. I don't know if you saw that one, but we're going to do that for you, keeping in mind, will you be happy at your new job? I'll let Oberon shuffle. He dropped a card again.
It's a good omen.
It is a good omen.
I dropped the 6 of Wands. The 6 of Wands refers to victory, of course. It's riding with laurel wreaths, and it just seems like it's a happy welcome for somebody who staged a victory. And so maybe to some degree, just the idea about having the new job was a victory to you because, number one, you probably moved way up in pay a bit from where you were at. And number two, you had to really persevere and fight for this. So congratulations
Good
to you
job.
just on having the new job, of course. And,
Can I throw something in on that card?
we're proud of you.
Can I throw something in on that card?
Sure.
I would just like to add that the 6 of Wands just basically means this is a big achievement for you, obtaining this job. It's a major achievement, and you should feel you have accomplished something great here. So I'm going to start laying out these cards in search of aces.
You're welcome.
I have not gotten an ace, so I'm going to the next pile. I have an ace on the 13th card. Well,
These are very interesting cards here.
yes, they are. And I would say it is leaning towards a possible no at this time. And I have several reasons why that could be. Don't get yourself too concerned about this yet. But it may be that there is information you aren't aware of yet. The moon is upright. And there may be things that will play out over time and will be revealed to you over time. So there are things about the job and maybe what you're doing there that you have not been told fully about yet. And whether that will integrate well with your expectations, I think that's going to be the question here. And,
Wait,
oh,
the moon is about mysteries. The moon is about finding out possibly about mysteries. Sometimes you find out, almost always you find out. It's just a question of timing on that because the moon reminds us that there are cycles and that the moon is full and then it's new, it's waxing and then it's waning. So this is like, I think Banshee said this in the beginning, is that there is not necessarily something you will find out immediately.
okay, and with the, well, your other determining card here is the Ten of Swords. Yikes. It's reversed,
It's reversed.
which means that there seems to be some type of recovery happening, a slow recovery. It may be that some disappointments from past work experiences or some unresolved issues relating to past work experiences may be impacting how you're viewing what's happening at your present job.
I myself don't believe in sugar coating things.
Go ahead.
And I sort of feel that this
sugarcoating
card
it?
does to me represent that it sort of indicates that there are contrary forces there. But what's happening is that you seem to have an upper hand, or you'll seem to be able to reverse those contrary forces. It may be organ donation ring, you know.
Or whatever. You're talking about something under the table.
Soylent Green is people. No, we don't want that.
And you're relating it to the present job, not things from the past. And I do think that
Well, you
could
haven't
be
started
as
the new
well.
job yet, as I understand it. So the thing is that it's just something to keep your head open for. That there's probably this idea that, you know, you may find out that there are factions. Most workplaces have factions. You know, that's just the way it goes. And you may have to figure out how to ride through that faction. The cycling aspect of the moon, figuring out the process and the rhythm, and that somehow you will, you know, have a standing there, because it says to me that you learn how to deal with those contrary forces.
I think that's very good.
Do you want to add those to this?
I do want to add this. I decided that since we've used up a lot of our time, we won't have time for a Lenormand, but it's good time well spent with you, Junior Goddess. And I have drawn 2 cards for the Lenormand, and I think that maybe these cards are meant for you. So, since
one is the King of Spades,
which
also
is
called number 30.
Which is actually the lilies, and it's associated with the King of Spades. And the lilies, and also, why don't you give the other one as well at this time?
Is a Jack of Hearts.
Yes, that's correct. And
number 24.
And it's the heart.
It's the heart.
And what this is telling me, the 2 energies of these cards combined together, is telling me that there's a lot of passion and a lot of love involved with this job. I think that if you stuck with it over time, if you gave it a chance, you could overcome the situation here. This shows happiness and love, a passion over time. The lilies is about maturity and growing older sometimes, or it could talk about a long length of time. So I think that's what it's telling me, that if you're in it for the long haul, there will be a settling in and a happiness achieved. Now, I don't know if you can really do much with this, but I threw this out there as what I do. But
Well,
if you have
I would just say that
to add?
those effects sound really nice, and I think that, like, you know, sometimes, you know, everybody hates their job. You know, nobody ever totally loves their job, so there's a sense of that. But once again, to me, the key is the moon card, because the moon card says it's about figuring it out. It's about finding out some things, and it's also about moving through that cycle. So, you know, it is really sounding like in the long run you'll learn to love it. You will, and maybe it'll be a stepping stone of sorts.
Yes.
So, on that note, I guess we are done.
We are done.
We really appreciate everybody who managed to watch us today, or who will see us in the future here.
Or who will watch the eventual video version of this that will be available on YouTube. And also keep in mind...
You're welcome. Thank you for
You're very welcome,
letting us
Junior
read.
Goddess. In the future, we will be also parceling some of our segments off into videos, so that if you just want to catch Oberon's meditation, or you want to find out maybe about my goofy little oracular devices, blasts from the past, you'll be able to watch those in mini video versions.
A few sessions back, we did a couple of readings that were a little semi-serious, a little whimsical. One of them was about the presidential election for next year. So I'm hoping to clip that out. It was a minor segment of about 10 minutes, and I'll be throwing that on YouTube too, and we'll announce that on our Facebook and on Twitter. And once again, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, everybody, for helping us with the live stream, our producer, Monster Hunter, and... we'll see you next time. Be there or be square. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.